Good afternoon. It's 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. We'll call the City Council meeting of the City of New Ulm to order. First item is the consent agenda. Councilors, what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion does carry. Moving on to Section 2, a public hearing. 2.1 is a public hearing on the sale of property to Land Haven Development LLC. We have Mr. Schnoberg and Mr. Nicely. Good afternoon.
Madam President, members of the City Council, the subject property that we're going to be talking about is located directly north of Walmart and west of Jacob Street. Street address of the property is 2211 Jacob Street. This property is owned by the City of New Ulm and has been platted as Airport Industrial Park 3rd Edition. Property is currently being farmed. A transaction of this type between the city and a private individual and the dollar amount involved requires the city to comply with the provisions of the State of Minnesota Business Subsidy Act. The proposed sale price for the land would be $1, and that would equal, there's a market value of $102,000 for the property, and there would be a 50% reduction in the outstanding assessment, and that would, the benefit there would be $115,000, and so the total value of the financial assistance or business subsidy would be $217,000. And a public hearing is required if the amount of the business subsidy exceeds $150,000. Now, the city purchased this property from the Schultz family to expand the size of the industrial park back in December of 2017. A plat of the property was approved by the city on February of 2021, and the plat subdivided the property into 4 lots, and there also were 2 streets. At a work session that was held June 20th of 2023, the City Council discussed appropriate sale prices and assessment terms for these lots. And at that time, the council agreed that it would be appropriate to sell Lot 2, Block 2 of the subdivision, which is the parcel, I'm going to point to the map, located right here. And that was sold to Mr. Janisak. And the sale was for $1 and a 50% assessment payment. The assessment term was 10 years at an interest rate of 4.25%. So in considering the current request, the staff utilized the same formula. Total size of Lot 1 is 6.85 acres. Tony Golden, on behalf of Land Haven Development LLC, recently expressed an interest in acquiring Lot 1. It would be his intention to subdivide the property into smaller lots to allow for the construction of storage facilities with the option of having dwelling units located within the buildings. It was estimated that there could be a total of 29 lots. The city previously sold Lot 1 to Streams Edge Properties LLC for $164,057 on September of 2021. The company intended to use the property for an office and warehouse area for a trucking company. Streams Edge returned the property to the city at no cost when they determined that they no longer had a need for the property, and that transaction took place in April of 2022. With this particular type of project, the creation and retention of jobs would not be a project goal, and it's important that that be noted at the public hearing. There would be a minimum of 2 goals for this project. The first would be to have a minimum expenditure of funding for roadway and utility improvements. And the second would be the approval of a plat with approximately 29 lots. The owner will also need to secure a planned unit development land use designation for the project. Since there are several zoning requirements in place for the I-1 zoning district that it would not be in compliance with. And then there also would be a need for a project development agreement. A purchase agreement for the property will need to be approved by the city council at a future meeting. The closing on the project or property would be subject to the following conditions. One is that Landhaven would have to enter into that purchase agreement with the city. 2, the city and Landhaven will need to finalize the project goals. 3, there will be a need for a project development agreement. And 4, Landhaven will need to secure the planned unit development zoning designation. The remaining 50% of the assessment amount assigned to Lot 1 totals $115,000. And funding from the land acquisition fund would be used to pay that remaining balance. That is the same fund that was used to pay the remaining balance for the assessment for Lot 2 of Block 2. The purpose of the public hearing is to provide an opportunity for members of the public to express their views, opinions, and concerns on this land sale. That would complete the staff report. On the video monitor, there's a drawing which shows the proposed layout of the individual lots.
Thank you, Mr. Schnobreck.
I got one question for Mr. Schnobreck. Explain to me the construction of storage facilities with optional enclosed dwelling units.
That was also my question.
Well, what that would mean is that the storage units could have space set aside within them for people to live.
Which we had a 3, 4, 5 years ago, was it? A knockdown battle on that issue about, no, we're not going to let them do that in the city of New Ulm.
Right.
I remember it well.
Yeah.
That's ultimately that's the council's decision. I would note, though, that we perhaps are in a time when we need to look at other options for providing, residential spaces within the community.
Right. No, I understand that. What I'm looking at is we're going to have these other owners. We all know these facilities are built with bathing facilities, nice kitchens in and whatnot. They're going to come back. Well, I would like to do this now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're ready for that?
I mean, at this point, when we're looking at affordable housing and just housing in general, again, this is just another option. And if they'd have to go through the same process, whether it's interim use permit or conditional use permit, that would, again, be an option at that point. But, ultimately, planning commission's decision and then yours.
I don't have an issue with it. I just don't want it to stop it because you're right, especially against our I-1 zoning district. All right, thank you.
And I have just a question. Roads, are we looking at roads in the future, like actual curb gutter, or is this going to be gravel, like a lot of these shed
First,
house development
these-
areas?
These would be, it would be private roads.
Okay.
And private installation of utilities. And the applicant is here, and so I'll maybe let him answer that question further.
Yeah. And then if you recall, also, Jacob Street is now paved at this
Yep.
point, so.
Hi, my name's Tony Golan. I'm the president of Landhaven, so I can answer as many questions as you'd like. So the question is, would it be roads? It would be a private road At this point, it would be gravel. Will it be paved down the road? It'll be set up an association. So as the association agrees to pave the roads, we would pave the roads. At this point, it would just be gravel.
Is there a-
So,
oh, go ahead, Dave.
go quick, city engineer, we have that method when we reach a percentage, right?
On a normal subdivision,
Right.
yes, but this being that it's private, that would be up to how the association is set up and documentation within the PUD agreements and development agreement. This wouldn't be necessarily something that the city would take on because they are private utilities, they are private roads, so the developer would construct
you.
them on his own, yep.
Are you looking at having uniform sheds, or is this just dealer's choice?
No, it'd be uniform sheds.
Okay.
I got this idea out of Brainerd Baxter area. Met with the people, the developer last week, and he pretty much informed me on how he did it, what he did, how he did it. He kept everything uniform. That was my goal from the beginning. It's not designed to be a development where you just come in with whatever color shed you want, whatever size you want. It's going to be a uniform. They're all going to be the same color. So it's going to look professional. It's not going to be just a throwed up
Similar to
development. if you
Cortland's
call it.
development, all the sheds are the same color.
Never seen it, I guess,
Okay.
never been out there and looked at it, but my vision is a lot different than just a typical 7-acre thrown together development. No, they'd all look uniform, all the same color. Might just have one door separate color on each unit so they can distinguish their shed, so they can call it their own. It's gonna be theirs anyway, but, so, yeah, no, it would be all uniform to answer your question.
And would you be the developer on this, or do you have a developer in mind? Because for me, the quality of the units going up is extremely important.
The quality is not going to be sacrificed whatsoever. I will be the,
Okay.
myself and our staff that's with us, yeah. So I would be the developer, yeah.
President and councilors, I have a question for Mr. Schnobreck. Do we have any storage units with residences now within city limits?
Technically, no. That's how you can answer it.
Our regulations currently do not allow that to take place. I think we probably could find some locations, though, where that may be happening.
And so can you, Mr. Schnobert, can you kind of expand on why that hasn't been allowed in the past? Like, what are the reasons that we would have something like that?
Well, I think primarily because, your storage sheds are located in industrial areas. Industrial areas can tend to be, have truck traffic, can be noisy, can, there can be smells and all sorts of other industrial types of things taking place that maybe aren't compatible with residential dwellings.
Mr. Schnobre's correct. That was in the work session many years ago. If we would do this, we're not going to respond to the people that, oh, these trucks are pulling in permitted use, 2:00 in the morning, disturbing me sleeping, that type of issue. It'll come. I mean, they have to be aware of it when they move in. You're right next to windings or, they can operate 24/7 if they choose.
Well, in this particular case, Walmart, their trucks come in on the backside of the building, which would be very close to this, and right across the street, the new building that was built is
Right.
a trucking firm as well, so, yeah.
Mr. Schnobert, is this something that you would envision that this would be designated to just this area only for possible residential, or we would open it up within the community?
The planned unit development designation is what would allow the residential portion of the project to take place. So it would only be designated to this property.
For now. So is there a way that we can potentially limit kind of, like if 5 other people have this idea and want to do this, is that going to be good for us? Do you know what I'm saying?
That would be the council's decision if they think that's an appropriate land use arrangement.
Okay. I want to be clear, I'm not in opposition of this, I just had some questions.
And as indicated, he will have to secure a planned unit development designation. And in going through that process, this particular land use would need to be further identified and more details provided about it.
Thank you. And as a reminder, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience that has a question or would care to be heard, you can go up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
I'm just going to make a comment. I appreciate the fact that we're looking at creative ways to address housing, and this might be one more that can help us address that major issue that we have in our community.
I mean, I know it's been a subject, in the past, and it still provides us another diverse avenue within our community, from different styles. Everybody has their different style of how they choose that they want to live, potentially. But if we can start it with a plan and unit development, I don't see any problems with it.
Likewise. I think it's a great use of the space. It hasn't had a lot of tire kickers in. Let's develop it. So I guess not hearing anybody else, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on sale of property to Land Haven Development LLC and acknowledge that the public hearing was held.
Second.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Good luck.
Those in favor, or is this a roll call? Public hearing, roll call? Assistant?
Oh, this one is just,
No?
it's
Okay.
just closing
It's
the public
Closing
hearing.
the public hearing. Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. That motion does carry. All right, moving on to item 3.1, an interim use permit request for 1121 South Minnesota Street. Mr. Nisley.
Good evening, Council President. Councilors, John Nisley, planner with the City of New Ulm. This is an interim use permit request by Daniel McKinley on behalf of Samantha Whitaker to allow the operation of a myofacial release therapy business out of a single-family residence on property located in the RT2 zoning district. So I would note that the applicant is proposing to run this business out of their single-family home in an unused bedroom on the basement level of their home. They have a walkout basement at this location. The Planning Commission at its February 27th, 2025 meeting unanimously recommended approval of the request with conditions. I would note that we received 2 phone calls and then also an email regarding this request. The 2 phone calls were simply asking for further information on what the proposed request is. The 1 email is included in your reports to the council, and they were in opposition to the project or to the business. Staff did reach out to them to ask if they needed any more clarification on what was being proposed, and we didn't get a response. So staff's evaluation is that the application complies with the standards for granting an interim use permit, and that there will be minimum traffic generated by this type of business. They're proposing only 1 customer at a time, so 1 additional car on the property when the business is operating. The city has permitted interim uses for similar businesses in residential areas such as hair salons, dog grooming, and float tank therapy businesses in the past. Again, the granting of an interim use permit does not permanently grant that use on the property. Rather, it's for a specified period of time. And staff would support a maximum of 5 years for this interim use permit application. After that 5-year period has come up, they can reapply for that same interim use permit for another 5 years. So they could have a total of 10 years for that interim use permit on the property if they so apply. We would note that we don't see that the business would impact neighboring properties through this use, and that the home will remain a single-family dwelling into the future. The applicant has not proposed to change the home structurally whatsoever. So if the therapy business ceases to operate, it simply goes back to an unused bedroom on the property. There were 5 conditions recommended by the Planning Commission. 1, that the use shall comply with the standards found in 2.4E of the zoning ordinance. Those are the interim use permit standards. 2, that the interim use permit approval period is for 5 years. 3, that the use will not expand or be moved from the location identified in the application. 4, that the applicant or property owner will pay the cost to record the resolution and approving the interim use permit with the Brown County Recorder's Office. And then 5, if the property were to change ownership, the interim use permit shall be null and void. If a new owner wishes to continue the use of a myofacial massage therapy business at the site, they'd be required to apply for a new interim use permit. And that would conclude the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Nisley.
Well, we've done interim permits before in the past, and it meets everything, and so I'm going to offer a resolution to approve the conditions with interim use permit application on Daniel McKinley on behalf of Samantha Whitaker to allow operation of a myofacial release therapy business out of a single-family residence on property located in a RT-2 zoning district on property legally described as the Lot 9, Block 54, south of Center Street.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
One question, John. Maybe it's in the lengthy report. Was there a time of operation?
Yeah, the time, it would be your regular hours from 8 to 4:30. That's what the applicant has proposed to us.
Okay, it wasn't in here.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
don't have that listed as a condition, but that's what the operator or the business owner would like to do, is regular hours 8 to 4:30.
Thank you.
Do you think it should be listed as a condition, or are you okay with it not being listed?
That's one option. I don't know that the amount of traffic generated from this type of business would really require that it has to be during those specific business hours.
Right.
Especially thinking of if a person is a working person and wants to use this type of therapy at this person's home,
Right.
they maybe have to do it after their regular day of work.
I'm fine with that. Any further discussion? Assistant Director Mira, please call the roll.
Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
Counselor Schmitz?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, that motion carries. Item 3.2 is a comprehensive plan amendment, changing the land use designation from low-density residential and medium-density residential to high-density residential. Mr. Schnobert.
Madam President, members of the City Council, the city has received a petition from Keith Marty requesting the change in our comprehensive plan. The legal description of the property is identified in attachment or Exhibit 1, and the property is generally located at 901 North Highland Avenue. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this request, and that was at their February 27th meeting. They voted 4-0 with one abstention to recommend approval of the request with conditions. The two conditions had to do with number one, the applicant owner will pay the cost to record necessary documents with the Brown County Recorder's Office. And number two, the change of the land use categories are subject to the approval of a planned unit development zoning designation for the site. At the public hearing, there was discussion in the following areas. One was had to do with increased traffic and circulation patterns. The second had to do with property values. The third was the impact on sight lines, and the fourth was the adverse impact of the project on adjoining development areas. The property is generally located southeast of New Ulm High School, northwest of Kids Excel Center, and west of North Highland Avenue between 8th and 11th North. The subject property has a total area of 10.2 acres. It's been farmed in the past. Mr. Marty would propose to sell the property to Stephen Keepers Architects and Builders out of Brainerd. The proposed project would involve the construction of 4 three-story apartment buildings, 8 detached garages, and there would be a pool, children's, the site plan. There would be a pool, children's playground, dog park, parking lots, stormwater ponds, and the extension of 10th North Street from North Highland Avenue to the west. Each building is proposed to have 36 apartment units with a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units. The project would be constructed in 2 phases. There is a total of 144 units being proposed on the site. The New Ulm Comprehensive Plan is an official statement by the New Ulm City Council that describes the community's shared vision, goals, and objectives for future growth and development. As a guide to development, it is intended to be a flexible and responsive document that can be amended to acknowledge changing conditions and new opportunities. Within the comprehensive plan document, there are 3 definitions that are identified in the report. I just would like to note that part of the definitions, a density amount is provided. So in our low-density residential, the density amount ranges from 1 to 10 units per acre. In our medium-density residential, it ranges from 1 to 12 units per acre. And in our high-density residential, it ranges from 9 to 21 units per acre. The question that the Planning Commission considered at its meeting, there were 2 of them. One was, does the proposed change generally comply with the identified criteria found in the findings of fact form? And secondly, is this an appropriate location for high-density residential land uses given the surrounding comprehensive planned land use designations? The Planning Commission, as I indicated, recommended approval, and their reasons for doing so are found in the findings of fact form. Staff provided the Planning Commission with kind of a summary report. And in that report, we identified reasons for approving this particular request. The first thing I'd just like to note is this is the proposed site plan for the project. So North Highland Avenue here, 7th North Street here, New Ulm High School at the top of the page. I'm not going to be telling you anything that you don't already know, but New Ulm is in kind of a unique location when it comes to land development. We've got the Minnesota River on one side, we've got the Cottonwood River on the other, which includes abutting it, Flanders State Park, New Ulm Country Club, and we have the airport and its safety zones on another side. And what that does is it only allows development more or less to take place in a somewhat limited area. And you can see that being the northwest and the southwest part of the community. And so these, this area is kind of our primary development location. It is possible that we could expand in other directions, but it's going to take a significant financial investment, I believe, in order to be able to do so. In preparing the comprehensive plan, we deliberately did not put a lot of property or designate a lot of property for high-density residential. And we did that intentionally. And the reason was that we tend to have a limited amount of high-density residential taking place within the community. We went back in our records and looked at them and found that we do a project of 40 units or more probably once every 5 years. And so the question is, why would we want to allocate a lot of property for high-density residential if it basically is not going to be used for development based on past experience? And so what we did do is we put most of our property, vacant property, into our medium-density residential category, with the idea that if a project warrants, that we would, through a comprehensive plan amendment, we would increase it or move it to a high-density residential designation. And since 2009, we've done that 5 times. Sometimes it was just medium density to high density, but the Dreamville or the Riverhaven project, we went from low density to high density. Highland Regency was a public, semi-public to high density. Emerson Union was public, semi-public to high density. So we have taken this type of position from a development standpoint to move properties into a high-density residential category if we think it's an appropriate location. We have looked at our comprehensive plan, and we did over 2,400 people responded to our surveys, and housing is one of the major needs that was identified by people. I thought it was interesting that apartments and multifamily dwellings, that was rated the second highest housing need in the community, and the highest one was affordable housing, but they were fairly close. And the consultants commented that apartments being ranked that high was at least unusual in their experience. So I think there's, the community recognizes that that need does exist. I think we all know that the cost of single-family dwellings currently is very high. We did a housing study, Maxfield Research Group did. It was commissioned by the Economic Development Authority. 0.8% vacancy rate for market rate rental units. You know, the optimum vacancy rate is 5%. The housing study also indicated that we should have, by the year 2030, an additional 800 dwelling units. And so, there is and they noted a strong demand for more housing. Another subject was traffic volumes. City engineer has advised us that he does not believe that the additional traffic generated from this project would warrant any changes to North Highland Avenue. And the final thing that I would like to note is that the project in its buildings are set back fairly significant distances from adjoining residential housing. We found that it's 255 feet from the buildings that face North Highland Avenue to the adjoining residences, and that within the community that we have a number of other apartment buildings that are much closer than that. So that distance would seem to be more than appropriate for the project. The final thing that I would like to note is that The medium-density residential limit is 12 units per acre. This proposed project is going to be 15.96 units per acre. So it's actually on the lower end, the less dense end of our or our high-density residential project. And so it, I think, fits with, you know, what we see in the community currently, and we found this to be an appropriate location. The developer is present, so if anybody has any questions, I'm sure he would be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Schnobreck. I'm not sure that any of us up here need to be convinced that this is going to be an appropriate use of the property. So I appreciate all that additional information.
One more question, Dave. So, all we've got left to do on this, I'm for the project, is the, planned unit development, the zoning? Okay.
And the reason that's necessary is because within our zoning regulations, we say that you can't have accessory buildings in front of the permitted uses.
Permitted
Well,
use,
the garages
yeah.
are all going to be in front of, so that's one reason. And there was some other, they're going to split the site into 4 lots, and so setbacks may or may not be an issue. So it's those types of things that we want to address.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like it. I'm going to offer a resolution to approve the petition of Keith Marty to amend the city's comprehensive plan to allow high-density residential land uses in a place of low-density residential and medium-density residential land uses for the property legally described on the attached exhibit number 1 and generally located at 901 North Highland Avenue.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
President and councilors, I just would like to point out that this is wonderful to have more residential units for people. I'd like to point out some assets that the people might enjoy nearby, Fender Park, the paved trail, and I really think this is a great opportunity for more individuals and families to reside in our community. And I also like the alignment of the buildings perpendicular to Highland Avenue.
I agree, it's a wonderful looking project, and glad they chose a new home.
Thank you. Any other comments? Assistant Director Amira, please call the roll.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
Counselor Schmitz?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, that motion carries. Under old business, we have item 4.1. This was tabled from last month's second meeting because we do require a 3 or a 4/5 vote for this, and we did have a couple counselors absent. So this is basically offering the resolution for the year-end transfers and encumbrances. It's something that's done every year. I don't know, Danielle, if there's anything you'd like to add to that.
No, it should be all in the action form. It's just interfund transfers, carry forward budget of the 2025 from 2024, closing out funds that are no longer needed, and moving some capital improvement, which requires a 4/5 vote. So, yeah, that's it.
I'd like to offer the resolution approving the recommended 2024 year-end transfers and encumbrances.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Assistant Director Amira, please call the roll.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
Counselor Schmitz?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item 4.2 is ordinance number 2025-TBD, second consideration regarding zoning. Mr. Nicely?
All right, thank you. This is the second consideration of, for lack of a better term, the cannabis zoning regulations. I would note that this is also the second consideration, but also the approval of the summary that will be published in the New Ulm Journal, summarizing the ordinance changes. Since the first reading, staff has not received any comments from the public regarding this ordinance. Additionally, we have not made any changes from the first reading whatsoever. I would also note that as you all may be aware, there's one business interested in locating a retail space in New Ulm. But other than that, we also have not received any additional business inquiries for this type of use in the city. And that would conclude the staff report.
Thank you, and that location would be permitted within this zoning?
Yeah, they haven't, the business that's inquired hasn't specified a certain location. They've asked us about one, and that would fit in the areas that's not buffered.
Thank you.
I've heard nothing from anybody really about this, so does anyone else?
No.
I've heard nothing.
Yep.
I've had nobody, so.
Motion to conduct the second consideration to adopt ordinance number 2025-TBD amending Appendix A of the New Ulm City Code, the zoning ordinance of the City of New Ulm, Table 5-5, uses by business district, Table 6.4, uses by industrial district, Table 9-1, use table, uses by district, Section 9.2, use-specific standards, Section 9.3, table of permitted accessory uses, and Section 13.3, definitions as they pertain to cannabis business uses, and approve the attached summary of ordinance amendments to be published in the New Ulm Journal.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
And then just to follow up, since this is just the zoning stuff, the registration portion will be coming potentially at the next meeting.
Perfect.
Excellent. All right, thank you. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion does carry. Thank you, Mr. Nisley. Item number 5.1 under new business is a renewal with the terms of the collecting a bargaining agreement with LELS. Mrs. Boomgarden.
All right. Thank you, President Becker, Shauna Boomgarden, Human Resources Director. So we reached a settlement agreement with LELS, which is our last contract to get approved following mediation. So some of the key highlights include a 3-year agreement covering 25 to 27. We have general wage increases for all 3 years, including market adjustments for 26 and 27. We have updates to several articles, including the vacation schedule, Juneteenth holiday, bereavement leave, grievance procedures, among others, and then incorporation of the approved school resource officer MOU, the healthcare savings plan MOU that we had last year, and then also the removal of the residency requirement. The terms have been ratified after we went through mediation by LELS Local 150, and we do recommend approval of the contract settlement.
Thank you. I had one question, removal of the residency agreement. So it wasn't modified. It basically was removed.
Yeah, it was removed. So currently in the contract, there's a 30-minute response time. We've never really utilized that, and due to how difficult it is to get people staffed, we decided, along with the chief, that we would remove that residency requirement.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any comments? I know this has been kind of a back and forth and
I've got no comments, so I'm going to offer a resolution approving the terms of the collective bargaining agreement with Law Enforcement's Labor Services, LELS, Local 150, for the period beginning January 1, 2025, and expiring on December 31st, 2027.
Second.
thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I just want to thank Shauna and those who were, in these talks, because I know that this was going back and forth. It is an extremely generous agreement. We understand that you're the one that, knows the rules and does the work, but, looking at this, I know that they'll be happy, and I appreciate everything that you've done. Thank you. Okay, if there's no other comments, Assistant Director Mira, please call the roll.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
Counselor Schmitz?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
President Becker?
That motion carries. All right, moving on to 5.2 is a memorandum of agreement between the city and LELS.
So this MOA is what we agreed to upon completion of mediation that we had the middle of February. So we reached this based upon, there's still a 4% compensation gap based upon the market that study that was conducted. So as part of the settlement, we agreed to a performance pay system that will be introduced specifically for 26 and 27. So what this means is that if officers receive an exceeds expectation rating on their performance evaluation, that they'll receive a lump sum payment of 0.75% of their annualized base pay. The system is designed to incentivize the retention of police officers in a competitive market, recognize high performance, and align LELS compensation with market standards. So this is in addition, and this is just an agreement for 26 and 27 only.
Thank you.
I'd like to offer the resolution approving the memorandum of agreement between the City of New Ulm and Law Enforcement Labor Services Incorporated Local Union Number 150.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Assistant Director Amira, please call the roll.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
Counselor Schmitz?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 5.4, it's a professional services contract for bridge number 08520, slope and scour stabilization plans. Mr. Stadheim.
Missed one?
5-3.
3.
5.3, sorry, memorandum of understanding between city and LELS.
All right, thank you. So as part of the negotiated settlement, lastly, the union has agreed to waive the use of emergency sick and safe time, or ESST, for public emergencies or weather-related events, even though Minnesota law typically allows that usage for that type of situation. So this is just an understanding between LELS and the city.
I'll motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of New Ulm and Law Enforcement Labor Services Incorporated Local Union Number 150.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 That motion does carry. Thank you. I apologize. There was 3, not 2. All right. Item 5.4, professional services contract for bridge number 08520, slope and scour stabilization plans.
Right, thank you, Madam President, City Councilors. Just a little bit of background on this request. So the Minnesota River Bridge, so that's bridge number 08520, 20th South Street, Casat 37, had its underwater inspection performed on November 7th, 2024, and that's done by a consultant of MnDOT. And that report was completed on January 31st, 2025. Those inspections are done every 4 years. The underwater inspection discovered significant scour around the downstream side of the footing of Pier 1. So if Pier 1 is the pier that's closest to Nicollet County, the scour is below the scour critical elevation, which triggers more frequent inspections. Additionally, there is stream bank erosion on the east abutment of the bridge. Nicollet County and the City of New Ulm share maintenance project costs on the bridge on the 50-50 cost split. After a discussion with the Nicollet County engineer, it was decided to move forward with entering into a contract with Widseth to develop project plans and specification to remedy the issues found within the inspection report. Widseth was the engineer of record on our past bridge maintenance projects, including the low slump overlay in 2015 that also, in addition to that, had some additional work on Pier 1 on the upstream side of the pier footing, with some stabilization and riprap added on that side of it. So this proposal from Widseth would deliver plans and specification through bidding the project. It's our desire to move forward with this project as soon as possible. Hopefully, plans and specs done here in the near term, with construction happening in the fall of 2025. This project was unbudgeted, unplanned, but we can use state aid funds for this project, so it will not affect our bonding needs for 2025. If approved today, we will follow up with a bridge cost share or a construction project cost share agreement with Nicollet County. As in past projects, we've never done one of those between Nicollet County and the city. So Nicollet County engineer thought it might be pertinent to actually have something in writing that we're going to share this project on a 50-50 split. It's staff's feeling that this project should move forward. Any delays in completing this project may result in additional scour, and ultimately, if put off too long, would create weight restrictions on the bridge, which we want to avoid. The city has about $1.9 million in state aid funds available for this project, and again, we will split this with Nicollet County. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Joe, is the scour defined as like erosion? Is that how you're
Correct.
saying that?
Yep.
Just for the public
Yep.
that's watching?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to award contract to Winseth Incorporated to provide professional services for the 2025 Bridge Number 08520 Slope and Scour Stabilization Plans in the amount of $45,696.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Item 5.5, receive vacation petition and set public hearing date for April 1st, 2025.
Madam President, members of the City Council, we've received a petition from John Gogg, President of GMG Rentals Incorporated, and he is the owner of the property on either side of the right-of-way that is proposed for vacation. This right-of-way is designated as 16th North Street between Block 205 and 206 north of Center Street. If you look at the Gog Sheet Metal building, that building is located on the west portion of 16th North Street. So we would we're being asked to vacate the east half of 16th North Street, so that runs from generally the alley to the bike trail. Vacation request, there are two steps. The first is to receive the petition, and the second step is to set the public hearing and conduct it. That would conclude the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Schnobreck. I'm assuming this is adjacent to the area we vacated.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Make a motion to receive a petition request on the vacation of 16th North Street, Block 205 and 206, north of Center Street, and set the public hearing date on the petition for Tuesday, April 1st, 2025 at 4:30 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion does carry. Item 5.6, New Ulm Battery Cannon Shoot 2025 schedule.
Council President, councilors, this is a schedule of cannon shoots that the New Ulm Battery has put together. The highlighted ones would be the events that they would be firing the cannons at, and you do have to approve these. So again, we're just doing kind of as a blanket to beginning, so people know, and then there's no kind of last minute like, oh, we got to get on the agenda. The two that are kind of outside that realm would be for funeral memorial shoots out at the cemetery, and then training and demonstration purposes out of the compost site. At those, at least at the compost site, not a lot of residents down in that area, will be loud, and I'm assuming they're not doing it super early in the morning or late at night, sometime during noise hours. And then during the funerals, which again, if we can get those in front of council, we would do that, but there might not be time for some of those. And Tony Arndt is here to answer any questions.
Just one question. Thunder in the Valley, only 3 shots?
No, Council President Becker and City Council members, Tony Arndt, New Ulm Battery. It states Thunder in the Valley contains multiple shots accompanied by music and is part of the larger Herman Fest celebration. We're not certain of how many rounds are fired during that event, so yeah, multiple through multiple different battery organizations that come to assist us as well.
Are there any new dates on this list, or is this the same? I mean, we added shells last year.
Correct.
Yeah.
The only new date would be when St. Paul's Lutheran decides to do their amazing race. That did not make it on here, and through misunderstandings, it did not get approved by council, so we apologize for that. But all the other ones that we know of at this point in time are on this schedule. The process would be if another one needs to be added, the organization needs to come before council and describe what their event is and seek approval. And usually that starts with coming to City Hall and talking with Mr. Dalton's office.
No, all is well with this, and you guys do a fantastic job for your community, so I'll,
So do we need
Yeah.
an official multiple shots?
I'll
for-
throw it in there. Yeah, I'll make a motion to authorize the New Ulm Battery to fire cannons for the following events: Memorial Day Parade, Sunrise Salute, Thunder in the Valley, Veterans Day, funeral memorials, and training demonstrations, with multiple shots being fired at Thunder in the Valley.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. That motion does carry. Thank you so much. Item 5.7, Fire Department donations.
I'll offer a resolution to accept the following donations to the New Ulm Fire Department. $750 from Martin Luther College, $335 from Shell's Beer Hall during a Raise a Glass for Heroes event, $362 from Tips during the Shell's Raise a Glass to Heroes event, and $500 from Marilyn Reinhardt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Assistant Director Amir, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack,
Yes.
Counselor Christian,
Yes.
Counselor Warmka,
Yes.
Counselor Schmitz,
Yes.
President Becker.
Yes, that motion does carry. Item number 6.1 is report of claims paid.
I'll make a motion to accept the list of claims paid in the amount of $1,988,008.26.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion does carry. At this time, we do have an addendum to the, I can find it here. Yeah, how do I go back? There, okay, there we go, got my addendum. We do have an addendum this evening. It is in regards to an emergency equipment repair.
Sorry, President Becker, I think first you have to suspend the rules and proceed with the addendum. So you have to make a motion.
Perfect,
To
thank you.
suspend the rules,
Thank you.
proceed with the addendum.
Second.
Thank you, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. At this time, we can entertain the addendum agenda item, which is emergency equipment repair. Jeff, got anything for us? Thank you.
Thank you, Council President, council members. Our 2011 case loader we discovered it had a major oil leak. And in doing some research, the brake caliper went bad on us and it's been leaking into the differential. So we've had to haul it up to Titan Machinery, and because it's too big of a machinery and we don't have the tools to, specialized tools to do the repair. So in their repair, the front brakes are gone, so they checked the back brakes. The back brakes are bad too. So with the repair, it comes up at $24,618, and it's one of our main loaders that we use for snow removal. Carries our big blower around, and we use it quite a bit. And hopefully, it doesn't snow too much tonight.
I was just going to say, can you have it
That we
fixed by
can
tomorrow?
get by without it.
Motion to approve the repair of the 2011 case 821F loader for the Public Works Department, the amount of $24,618.20.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. That motion does carry. Thank you. At this time, we have item number 7.1, which is regarding a closed session. I am going to read into the record the rules for moving into closed meeting. Closed meeting pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05 Subdivision 3C to develop or consider offers or counter offers for the purchase of real property. The The legal basis to close this meeting is for this agenda item. The meeting will be closed to the public pursuant to Minnesota statutes, Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3C. The property to be discussed in closed session is real property located west and east of the city's airport, consisting of portions of the following tax parcel numbers: 1-900-2400-108-020, 1-900-240-041-0060, 1-900-2300, 102-010, 1-900-2300, 409-060, 1-900-2400, 205-040, and lastly, 1-900-2400-311-060. At this time, I would look for a motion to close this meeting and move into closed session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second to move into a closed session. Any further discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion does carry. At this time, we will move into closed session, and we will begin